Excited to be here today to really focus in and work on, do a deep dive into Comp 3. So, just to get us started, this is me. I made my Bitmoji and I added my gray hair. Still not quite as many wrinkles though, but this is just a little bit about me, where I went to school, all the schools I have worked at. I promise my husband can keep a job, but that's over 35 years. I'm retired now. I'm really enjoying being down in Lee County and working with the in-service center, and I do some work also with A Plus College Ready. So this is me. And now I want to get to know you guys just a little bit. So if you'll take just a minute in the chat to put your name and your school and how you're feeling today. Which of these soldiers do you feel like today? And where are you in your MVCT journey? Are you just getting started? Have you already put in some, submitted some comps? So don't forget to give me a number of which soldier you are. All right, I've got a number 6 here, very studious. Uh, Abby's a number 4, maybe just a tinge confused. Hopefully by the end of this session, you'll be feeling a lot better. There's another number 4, an 8 that's laughing and having fun. Wow, they're coming in so fast, I can't even look at them. So excited for you guys to be here. Some 5s that are excited, number 1s that are happy. It's still summer. School hadn't quite started yet. A lot of folks just getting started, just starting their journey. Uh, the Some of my Birmingham friends, I'm seeing you guys too. I've got a 4 and a 6, a little confused, but ready to be studious. So, very excited and so glad you're here today. Now, the face-to-face boot camp, it's not too late to sign up for that. It begins tomorrow here at Thompson High School. I'm actually already here. So as we get started, let's think about a few things. At the end of this session, I'm going to give you a link, both a QR code and a tiny URL with that will link you to a resource folder with this presentation and every resource that we talk about. Any slide that has a little arrow on it will either go to a URL or go to a resource. So you will have access to all of that, view only. If anything that you want or need, you'll need to download it. Any questions or clarifications, please feel free to put those in the chat. Dr. Coleman's going to just interrupt me, and I taught ninth graders, so I'm totally good with that, and we can talk about it, or I may say I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. If you would love to have your cameras on, but with this many people, I'm not going to be able to watch your facial expressions. I'll count on Dr. Coleman to do that and let me know if folks seem confused or if I need to reiterate everything. Uh, those of you that are big into social media, we're encouraging you to, when you make a post, to use these hashtags and to link with the State Department, the Alabama MVCT Network, and your school or district. If you haven't registered in PowerSchool, be sure and do that. Here is the session number and a QR code to allow you to get to PowerSchool to be able to do that. All right, so let's move on. And I do move kind of fast, guys. So remember, you can always go back to the recording, go back to any of these slides. Here are our mission goals for today. I want to do a little bit of an overview and spend a few minutes talking about engagement. And also Then we'll move into planning, looking at the forms and writing about planning, videotaping. There are some great sessions on the technical piece of it. We're not going to spend a lot of time with that, but we are going to look at and focus in on that written commentary, questions for a few minutes, and then our next steps. So let's begin with our overview. I have a compass here and a flashlight because I really feel like the knowing what you're trying to highlight, you're highlighting in your ability in Comp 3 to engage students and provide that positive learning environment. As you are doing that, to me, the key word in component 3 is engagement, 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 engagement. And we're going to talk a lot about that. And how are you going to show that evidence? Video recordings and your written commentary. Now, videos are not graded, they're not scored, they are just another piece of your evidence that you are going to talk about in your written commentary. And we're going to look at that. Now, when we think about Comp 3, this is what really I want us to make sure that we realize the weight of Comp 3. Comp 3 is double Comp 2 and Comp 4. So Comp 3 is super, super important. A lot of folks ask, what order should I do my components in? Should I dive right in and do 3 first? Should I, and probably if you talk to 5 National Board Certified teachers, you would get 5 different opinions on that. But some folks want to just get that Comp 3 in there, get a score, and see where they need to go from there. Others want to dip their feet in the water, do the differentiation and the analysis of student work, and then come back to 3. So that's kind of a personal decision, but I do want you to realize the significance and the weight of Comp 3. So first steps, always, always, always. If you've ever been to any National Board session that I've ever done, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the 5 core propositions. Whether we're talking about writing or an individual comp or timelines, I'm always going to start with the 5 core propositions because that's where the National Board started. They began with these 5 core propositions and everything else flows from there. So make sure you know these, you have these integrated into your practice, because the next step from the 5 core propositions are your standards. And each standard maps directly back to one of the 5 core propositions. Now, do you have to integrate all of those standards in Comp 3? No. Look in your guide, it will tell you the specific standards that will be covered in Comp 3. So after my best advice is, especially for those of you just getting started today, most of you are at home, print out your standards, start highlighting those, start annotating those, start making notes of things you do, things you don't do, things you want to try. Anytime they have the word example there, write it down. Make a note of it and think about things that you do in your classroom already that exemplifies these standards as you do those. Also, and now once you've decided, okay, I'm ready for Comp 3. I want to complete Comp 3 this year, go back and review those standards that are involved with Comp 3 and make sure you have those, you're writing with those, you're teaching with those, you have those integrated into your practice. So remember I said the key word for Comp 3 is engagement. So what I want to think about for just a minute is, what does student engagement look like in your classroom? What does student engagement look like in your classroom? Take just a minute to put that into the chat. Just a couple of words. What does it look like when students, conversations, discourse, hands-on, comments, thinking, writing, sharing. So student engagement isn't just listening to you guys. Turn-in talks, collaboration. Make note of all of these. Community circles, productive struggle. Good. I had a hard time with that. I always rescued my students way too soon. Active participation. Students are active participants. We're going to talk a lot about that, not only student to teacher conversations, but student to student conversations, excitement in their conversations. How about their, their expressions on their faces? When you see those light bulb moments, you can talk about those in your writing. Problem-based learning, and there are tons of great ones all there. What student engagement looks like and what it looks like in your classroom. Let's look at the National Board's definition of engagement. The degree of attention, interest, optimism, and passion. Now, my last 20 or so years, I was mostly with ninth graders in geometry. I'm not sure every single one of those was passionate about geometry every single day, but I was. I was engaged. So think about that. In their learning or being taught, and extends to the level of motivation to learn and progress in their education. That is the official National Board definition of engagement. So we have to ask ourselves, are all students meaningfully engaged? And how do their interactions demonstrate mastery of the objectives? That leads me to, can students be engaged and not mastering the objective? I think so. And I think that's something we need to make sure that they are mastering those objectives. One of the social media groups that I follow has a ton of a ton of assessors in there. And one of the most common mistakes assessors talk about is that candidates do not show the evidence of meeting the goals. They show their students are engaged, but they don't provide the evidence that the goal has been met, that the objective has been met. So be sure that you are very conscious of that in terms of engagement, and as you are working through Comp 3. All right, this is also from National Board. Anything I see in a webinar with from the actual National Board website, and I've watched a gazillion of them, I always want to share with you guys what they say, because these are the same things they are telling their assessors. So here are the three things that they say accomplished teachers do in terms of engagement. So I'll give you just a minute to read through those three things. Which leads us, I'm hoping that you aren't having a tally mark of how many question marks I have in this presentation. There are a lot, because there are a lot of things to think about. There are a lot of things to question. There are a lot of questions to consider. So you have to, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. I was moving your faces so I could read my questions. So how do you facilitate and plan for engagement to happen? Is it just magic? Do students just come into your class and automatically they are They are automatically engaged just because you have a very great subject that you get to teach. Kindergarten teachers probably, they may be engaged. They may walk in wanting to learn every day. I did not always find that with high school students. What will you hear, see that proves engagement is happening? Evidence, evidence, evidence. And how will you describe and analyze this engagement from your video? So all of those things are things. Now, and I'll probably say this again, but I want to say this now. Don't think your video has to be perfect. You want it to not be perfect. You want to be able to have things that you can talk about, that you noticed that a student was not engaged, what you did to re-engage them, or as you reflect what you should do to engage them. So all of those things are involved with engagement. So that leads us to planning. Does anybody have a burning question about engagement? I didn't put a question slide there, but before we move on, is there anything we need to take care of in the chat, Dr. Coleman?
Not that I can see.
Okay,
No.
all right. So the first thing we gotta do, we gotta open up our map, we gotta plan out our journey, using the, boot camp metaphor. We gotta have a game plan. We gotta have a battle plan here on how we are going to handle Comp 3. And as we, think about that, the very first thing I would do, guys, and this is easy, when you are sending everything home on the first day of school, send home this student release form. Parents have their pencils ready to sign everything, and you will get so many more back if you just send this home on the first day of school. You will have that taken care of. You will be done. This links you to the National Board homeroom, and step one, they have the release forms right there. And you can get them in English and Spanish, also Chinese if you need those. So be sure that you do that and get those released, because if you wait till later on in the year, you won't get, it's been my experience that you won't get as many back, and then you're gonna have to worry about which kids can be videoed and which kids can't. If you just send it on home, with your beginning of the year things for teachers to sign, it's got a letter and everything for the parents to sign. And if you're going to have an adult in your room, if you are teaching a collaborative class and you will have any aides in the room, you will need to get them to sign one as well. All right, let's think about selecting lessons to video. What do we want that lesson to look like? It's very important that your two lessons be from different units of instruction. Even if special right triangles was my very favorite thing and I had super engagement, I could not turn in two videos from my triangles unit. Different formats, and we're going to focus in on formats in just a minute, because this to me is the most confusing, the thing that's most confusing for most candidates. And the third thing is different teaching strategies. Now, if turn and talk is your favorite thing, I saw that a couple of times. PBL is a great thing to video, but you probably don't want to do two problem-based learning classes for your two different videos. So that's something to think about. Now, let's think about what that format is. This is from that Facebook group I was telling you about.
We do have a couple of quick questions about the release forms,
Yes, sir.
how long they're good for, and if they're needed for each component, or can one cover multiple components?
One can cover multiple components. You'll have a whole new set of students next year for doing Comp 3. So you need to do one for every, and if you were to get a new student in, but you'll need one for any student that appears on your video, any student that you could possibly be sharing their work, or any student that, on Comp 4 for your student profile, you really need it for all of your students. Does that answer your question, Chelsea? And I have my students for several years. Will I need to redo it every year? That is an excellent question, Ashley. I've never had that question before. I just because it is the date, because the date is on there, I would consider calling national boards and asking that question. They have that 800 number, 1-800-2-TEACH, I think. I would do a quick call to them for the answer to that question, since it is dated. My gut tells me you're going to need a new one every year. Okay, so is that good? All right, format. This is that Facebook group I was telling you about, guys, and that confusion of what is whole group, what is small group. Just because your desk are in groups does not make that small group. And this is a very reliable source, and one that I'm going to take and use. This idea that if everyone in the class is doing the same task and the same activity, even if they are in groups, even if you are moving around, that is still considered whole group instruction, because they are doing the same task and the same activity. Now, a small group would be, and I love this idea, film yourself working with just one group. Have that one group that you're just focused on while the others are doing something different. But several small groups, which each has different goals and different activities. And this will show how you interact differently with the groups. You can do one-on-one tutoring. All of those are appropriate, but you don't want to do 2 whole group videos. So be very, very careful about your different formats. And the whole idea here at the bottom, and I love this, is you want your videos you want to show, you're showing evidence of being an accomplished teacher. So you want to show as many different formats as you can. And it's going to ask you why, and you must justify. I chose this format because, based on my formative assessment, this group of students needed some extra help or some clarification, all of those different things. So why did you choose this particular format? So hopefully that clarifies that. And this is super important too, and all these things come directly from your instructions. The assessors want to see teacher to student, student to teacher, and students having discourse and talking to each other. And I will be very transparent and confess, the very first video that I made in 2004 was a great lesson. Students were very engaged, but guess who was doing all the talking? I was. And the person that was mentoring me, as we were discussing it, she said, why? And she was a middle school social studies teacher, and I was high school math, and she wanted to know, why didn't I ever let my students talk to each other and discuss it with each other? And at that point in time, I had to say I was the purveyor of all knowledge, but that was wrong. And I have learned and grown and know better now, but having those students talking and to each other is a very important idea to have. So I want you to brainstorm for just a minute. And I bet you already have a lesson in your mind that you have thought about possibly videoing, where you have all these things we've just talked about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you into a breakout room. Just 2 people in a breakout room, just a real quick 3 to 5 minute breakout room where you can just kind of brainstorm and share what lesson you're considering videoing and why you think that would be a good one to video. Okay? So, don't let your partner down. Now, so while you're thinking about that, I'm going to be making the breakout rooms. Okay, let's see. There may be some breakout rooms with 3 people. Because we have because of the number of people we have. So I'm going to create it and, you will automatically go into that room. I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. All right. So, talk to your partner about what lesson you think you're considering videoing for Comp 3 and why you're considering, this lesson. Hey guys. Hey, we are in a breakout room at the moment, so I'm going to move you to one. We're talking about what lesson you might video and why. Hey, Joseph, we are in breakout rooms. Talking about what video you might. Do you have join a room somewhere on your screen?
I do not at the current
Okay.
moment.
Let me see if I can find you. Somebody, maybe you're, there you are. Okay. I'm going to move you to a room of 2. So we've got about 2 minutes left so you can share.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, don't put me in another one.
Welcome back. You probably unmuted to talk to your partner, so go ahead and mute back.
Yes.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Amy, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right, thank you, because I can see you. Okay, I think do we have everybody back, Dr. Coleman? I love getting
Looks like
to
it.
talk just for a minute with, even if one of the people in your group was, exceptional needs middle school and you're an AP science teacher, I think we can always learn from each other and thinking about, lessons and engaging, and students are students no matter what the age. So, let's, all right, there's our brainstorm. All right, for each video, guys, here's what you're going to need for that video. You have your instructional context form and your instructional planning form. Then there's writing about planning. There are candidates that miss this. They get so involved with the written commentary, they don't realize within the instructions, there are a set of questions where you are asked to write about planning. The video lesson is part of for each video, obviously, and then your instructional materials and your written commentary. So there are actually two different pieces of writing for each video. And then your two forms and your instructional materials. Now, I have a little bit of a cheat sheet now, and if this makes you hyperventilate, just avert your eyes. But this is everything to the left is video 1, everything to the right is video 2. And it's just a Google Doc, and it just has question marks that you can go in and fill in for your particular certification. Your intro to entry, or your, notice I said to do it last. Let's look at that context form. How many prompts do you have? How many pages can it be? What size can it be? Single or double spaced? All of those are part of it. So if you are a graphic organizer person and this is something that would help you, this is one of the things. There's a tiny URL, but I also have it in the folder that I'm going to share with you at the end. So if you averted your eyes, come back. Because now we've moved on if that made you hyperventilate. Let's take just a minute to look at the contextual and instructional context form. Notice what I have circled there. That number 1, you are looking that's the question about your school. Not your class, your particular class, but your particular school, your program. What kind of schedule do you have? What are you block scheduling? Are you 7-period day? What's your number of students with free and reduced percentages of free and reduced lunch? Are you a large school? Are you suburban? Are you urban? If you're elementary, is it by grade level? Do you have two groups of students that are shared, and one teacher does math and science and the other does English and social studies? This is all about your school. Do you have a high percentage of ELL students? All of those things are about your school and your program. Then number 2, your teaching situation. You're just adding those numbers in. 3 It's talking about state mandates, your state course of study. Do you have a pacing guide? Do you have a grade level that stays together? All of those different kinds of things. Do you have a media specialist? Do your students go to PE? Do you have recess? All of those things will also be talked about in 3. Current technology. Are you a one-to-one school? All of those things will be discussed in 3. And then in 4, and you're putting all of that inside those brackets of the form, is when you start talking about your particular class that you are going to feature. And numbers, ages, grades, all of those things. And then 5, don't spend so much time on 1 through 4 that you don't get a chance to do 5, because 5 is going to be connected to directly to your written commentary. That's where you're talking about the things, the characteristics of that class, your class, not your school, but your class. Do you see them in the morning? Do you see them in the afternoon? Do you have homeless students in this class? What's their, and notice the and, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic diversity. If there is none, say there is none. That is, and then that last question, your challenges with exceptional needs, personality of the class. What does this class, are they talkative? Are they quiet? Are they sleepy? They've all been in the same classes together for 5 years and know each other and are like family. All of those different things. I've, had classes that were 90 or 80% boys that were very different than the next period class. I had a afternoon class that I taught one year that was mostly freshman football players that had practice before me. So they came in stinky and sweaty and tired and ready to get back out to the football field. So that's part of the personality of that class. Then our instructional planning form. Whoops. Sorry. Don't look, you're seeing the guts. Your instructional planning form, that is just, you do one of these for each video. What unit of instruction, your goals, the goals of the unit, the goals of the lesson, what format, what materials you use. This is just the facts because you're going to now talk about them in your instructional planning. So let's look at writing about planning. And all of these, I'm almost sure are the same for everybody except the only thing that would change, instead of your knowledge of science, it might be your knowledge of early childhood students, your knowledge of math, your knowledge of that. So here you're taking what you said in your context sheet where you talked about your students' backgrounds, and you're telling your assessor how that affected your planning. How did you use all of this that you know about your students how did you use that in your planning and your choice of strategies? What was the connection between your backgrounds, your students' needs, their interest? Why did you choose? Because you know that all of your students are involved in, a lot of your students are in the band or love music. So you chose this particular strategy because it involved that. They're very creative. You wanted your students to be able to create with this particular activity. And then what challenges are represented by your students? Instructional challenges. It asked previously about challenges for exceptional needs student, but this asks for challenges, instructional challenges. The next question, social and physical context. Do you have a very small room? Do you have a large room? Do you have a lab? How did that influence your planning?
There is a question in the chat about, are there writing examples through the National Board website or Atlas? For instance, like a completed instructional planning form.
Yes, and now I don't know about the instructional planning form, but yes and yes, there is writing in Atlas and there is writing in the general portfolio. I just talked about it yesterday in my East Alabama writing session. I don't remember the page off the top of my head, but if you go to the general portfolio instructions, it's toward the back, maybe pages 40 or so, and I don't have my hands on it right now, but they actually give you component examples and show you it's actually broken down so you can see what's descriptive, what is analytic, and what's reflective in that sample writing. And I will show you where the examples are in writing. Oh, page 24. Florence Middle School. Thank you, Shelby. In the general portfolio instructions is where that writing is. So I was too close to the end.
Yes, ma'am. That's where it starts.
Okay, yay. So, and that allows you to see what they consider to be exemplary. Great question. What are your long-term goals for this class? You told your unit goals, but long-term goals might be, I've had classes that one of my long-term goals was I didn't want them to hate math when the year was over because they walked into my class hating math based on how it had been taught to them in previous years. So that was one of my long-term goals. So you can don't think that your long-term goal necessarily has to be instructional. It can be lots of different things. So, and why? There we go. For component 3, okay. Let me make sure we're on the same page there. I'm looking at the chat. 29. Okay. But that's in the general portfolio, Laura, that's in the general portfolio directions, not in the comp 3. Okay, good. Because I was thinking it was not in the comp 3 instructions, it's in the general portfolio. Great, thank you. Y'all don't even need me. Y'all can just share with each other. And why do those goals, why are they appropriate for your students? So it might be getting them to talk about math. It might be getting them to share things. It might be getting them to stand up in front of the class and talk. Your long-term goals, they may not have to do with your subject area, is the point I'm trying to make there. It's still an instructional goal. How do they fit with your long-term goals and plans? And your rationale, why did you choose this format? You told me the format in the form, why did you choose it? And then your reasons for selecting. And guys, you've got to do all of that in 2 pages. Follow those same rules for written commentary. Put the question in there, restate the question. Don't make it, I could spend the next hour talking about writing for national boards, but that idea of and you can't hear this enough, don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about your format. Don't worry about an introductory sentence or a conclusion sentence. Dive straight in. I use my students' background because I know, and I'm going to show you some sentence stems later, because I know that my students struggle with solving equations. Before we applied that to angles, I did a bell ringer for that. All of those different things, how you use that in your planning and your choice of strategy. Because my students very short attention span. I chose to vary my strategies every 5 to 10 minutes. Because they have varying abilities, I chose homogeneous grouping so that I could focus in on the ones that really needed my help. All of those things, those use the words from the prompt in you, and even highlight those. I mean, bold those. Don't make your assessor have an Easter egg hunt. All right. Any questions about planning before we move on? And I will give some wait time that I'm not very good at. All right. We're going to get out our binoculars. We're going to talk about videotaping and written commentary. So let's think about, we talked about our battle plan. In a perfect world, what the National Board would love for you to write about planning. We've talked about that. Then go video your lesson and then complete your written commentary. Now, I don't know. I know, to be honest, I cannot tell you a single candidate that I've ever worked with that did it in that order. Most people do number 2 first. Most people video 15 lessons, choose the best lesson, choose the best segment from that lesson, and then they write about planning, pretending as if perhaps they have not videoed the lesson yet. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just so that that you know that that is in a perfect world, that's what they would love for you to do. So we've talked about writing about planning. So now let's look at and talk about your actual video. Remember, you want evidence of understanding, evidence of interaction, everything related to those objectives. That different units, different formats, different strategies. If you are a generalist or if you are doing literacy, you have to have 2 different content areas. You cannot just do 2 social studies lessons. Now, back to, and those general portfolio directions, I put those in, you don't even have to go find them. They are there and you can find those pages. The permission forms are there. They talk about equipment, placement of camera, tips. They even have a whole section on analyzing your video. I took that analyzing your video and turned it into a video analysis questions checklist. And this is in your resources too. So you can copy one for yourself and start check marking it off when you're trying to decide, when you're analyzing your video. These are the kinds of things that the National Board is going to be looking for. It is directly from that general portfolio instructions. And I have a picture of it right there. Video equipment, and there are whole sessions here at boot camp about the technology of videoing. So I'm not going to get into that a lot, but most folks I know are using their phones now. It has progressed. I mean, phones are good enough now and they're fine. The main thing you need to do is make sure it is landscape. You'll probably need a tripod. That editing software, all you're going to do is trim the front and the back so you can get your 15 minutes. Microphones are great so that they can pick up your voice. One thing, I did not use a tripod. I was lucky enough to be at an amazing school that had amazing video, and an amazing media specialist. And she came and we sat down and talked about my planning and what I was doing. I did it one of the afternoon classes, so she kind of observed one in the morning, and then in the afternoon, she came and videotaped 2 or 3 afternoon classes. So I had enough to then take and choose the best 15 from those. And as I moved around the classroom, she was able to focus in, or even if I was helping one group and she heard some good conversations, she could focus in on another group. So you can do that, or you can do the tripod. I've even had candidates that had a student come in, and that student, kind of, or another colleague, move the camera on the tripod to kind of zoom in on great things that were going on in the classroom. A lot of the your in-service center may have swivels that you can check out. Practice with that swivel. It can be a little persnickety. But in terms of equipment, you don't have to have a special camera or anything. Your phone will work just fine.
There was a question in the chat about checking out cameras from the regional in-service center, and I believe that's going to vary from center to center what's available, and I would encourage everybody to reach out to your in-service center director.
And I have the very last, one of the last slides, I have a QR code that will take you to, so you can get the contact info of your in-service center person. And guys, practice, you've got to get used to it. Your students have got to get used to it, and don't not use a segment if a kid waves at the camera or, makes a silly noise or during transition does something. But, especially those, those of you who maybe, didn't do Ed TPA when you were getting your degree like that and your certification like they do now, and you've never videotaped yourself before, just practice it. So let's pretend you've got your video, you think this is a really great lesson, but you've got 60 minutes worth. You've got to choose, or 45 minutes worth. You've got to choose the best 15 minutes. It does not necessarily have to be at the beginning of your lesson. Now, if your bell ringer is an essential part of that lesson, or what you do at your introduction is the most important part, use it. But don't think you have to begin at the beginning of the lesson. You can drive right in to the middle or to the hands-on activity after you've done the introduction. They don't have to hear you say the instructions. When are the most students engaged with you and with others? And you're not supposed to have any edits in the middle. They say if you have a fire drill, or if you are moving from your room to the media center, but it is better not to have any edits. But sometimes people go, oh, I have to get the 15 minutes. You can cut from the end and cut from the beginning, but you don't want to have any edits. No, you're not going to put any titles in there, nothing like that. They just want the raw footage of the 15 minutes that you choose. So here's whoever's making tally marks on questions, here are some questions you can ask yourself when you're trying to decide. Can you be seen and heard in each video? At some point, they have to see your face. It can't just be your voice in the background and the video just on your students. Can students' faces be seen? You don't want it just zoomed in on you and not be able to see your students. Can you understand the conversations? Now, there are times that there could be a great question when you're teaching it. I would repeat the question, but you can, lots of teachers, once they get their 15 minutes, they write down a transcript of everything that's said, and you can actually quote a student. At this timestamp, Sally in the red shirt by the window asked this question, especially if you don't think it's understood very well. And are students actively engaged? So all of those can help you decide where those best 15 minutes are. I love this advice. And you've just got to pitch your tent and get over how horrible your voice sounds. And I apologize that you're having to listen to mine now. Because that was the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness. Watch it the first time to verify the goals and objectives of the lesson are being met. Watch it a second time with the sound off. Make notes. You're looking for facial expressions. You're looking for students that are engaged or that are not engaged. You can see so much when you have the sound off. The third time, and you're going to watch it a lot more than this, but the third time, only the sound. Turn around and just listen. You may hear things that you don't see because you're so focused in on that kid that's making silly faces in the back. Let's watch it or go through the video and only listen to it. Now, I was not brave enough to do this. You may be. Watch it with your students. Let them point things out for you and watch it with a colleague or other candidates. Now, sometimes mentors, I know for us in East Alabama, we, because of such limited time, and we do not watch videos with our candidates. It's very important that you choose those 15 minutes. But a colleague or other candidate could really see some things you can't see. And you need to choose those because that's what you are going to be writing about. So let's take a minute to talk about evidence-based writing. Remember, we have our 3 types of writing, and this is straight from the national boards, guys. So that's why I always like to include it. The descriptive is the what, the analytic is the how, and the so what, the how and the why, and then that reflection. And when we look at these questions in just a minute, I want you to be thinking about which of those are descriptive, which of those are analytic, which of those are reflective. We tend to hang out over here in the descriptive piece. And we can talk about what's going on and what's happening, but we forget that we've got to provide that analysis. Why did you do that? How did you evaluate that? What, all of those different things where you are examining your practices. And then that reflection of what are you going to do differently next time, or what are going to be your next steps from here. So let's talk about authentic evidence. You're looking for how you interact with your students and then with each other. We've already talked about that. That climate of your classroom. Is it safe? Is it equitable? Do students feel comfortable asking you questions? That climate is one of the things that they're looking for in that video, and what ways that you engage. This is all part of that authentic evidence. You are a lawyer in a court, and the one and only person on the jury, the judge and jury, is your assessor. And you are providing evidence that you are doing all of these things. So let's look at an example of evidence from a classroom. I'll give you a second to read through that. All right. Now let's look at better evidence. And in the comments, I want you to tell me what is better about the second one than the first one. Why is the second one better evidence than the first one? Details, details, details. Yes, Abby. More specific. Yes. More concise, specific dialogue, actual students. Don't be afraid to use your student's name. And if you want to make up a name for them, that's totally fine. It explains the why, the rationale. Yay! Good job, guys. The notice, guys, the I's. In that last one, it just said the class was set up. How do they know who goes and gets the materials? How do they know that? All of those I's and those specific quotes. Excellent. Good observations. I set up the lab. Don't be afraid to use I. That's one of the pitfalls that we talk about is that invisible teacher. Don't be, and when I assure you, when I watch a first grade class, it looks like magic. And that teacher has sprinkled dust on those students that are sitting at her feet having a number, or his feet having a number talk. But everything that teacher does is intentional and is done for a reason. Who sits on what little circle is for a reason. And every hand signal they have is for a reason, and you need to explain what those reasons are and why. That's all about your evidence. So now let's look at the particular questions. Let's go back. The particular questions you have, and I want to focus in on this first question because many of the candidates I work with struggle with this first question. How did your pedagogical and instructional decisions made during the lesson align with your planning? We want to dive straight in and start talking about the lesson. And first I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and this worked great, and this didn't, and all of those different things. But and I think it would be time well spent to really do some annotating and some close study of what the question is asking. This question is asking, did it align with your planning? So you go back and look at your planning. What decisions did you make? I noticed that Sally was not interacting well with her group, so I made the decision to allow her to go be part of another group. You know, a fist fight broke out in this group, so I broke them up and put them in other groups. I made the instructional decision to take a time out and reiterate my directions because a lot of students seem to be confused on where to start. All of those things, it's not asking you a play-by-play of what you did. It's asking you how they met. I mean, how it aligned with your planning. So some things did. This went this aligned exactly as I had planned. I knew from previous experiences I needed to begin with review, and I did that, which allowed them to quickly, in this activity, they had to use a ruler. So I made sure that we reviewed using a ruler and that we wanted to use centimeters and not inches. And students went directly to that side of their ruler so that, that was something that aligned with your planning because it was needed. And then here are the remainder of the questions. I just wanted to focus in on that one because that one seems to be a roadblock for a lot of folks. Then you're asked about your specific approaches, strategies, and techniques that you use to promote student engagement. Is this descriptive or analytic? What are we thinking? Tell me in the chat. That second one. What what activities did you use for active engagement? Descriptive, yes. A little bit of analytic. I'm thinking analytic. That can be both analytic and descriptive. That then you're getting into how do you establish the safe, fair, equitable? Both, yes, absolutely. To what extent did you achieve your goals? Look at those last two. talking about your past experiences and what would you do differently. What are we doing here? That's going to be reflective, right, Celeste? We're coming back and we're reflecting on what we've done. And I agree on those middle questions there. You do want to be both descriptive and analytic. Why did you use those strategies? What was your rationale for that activity, that technique? How did you establish that challenging learning environment and why? A majority of your students are moving on to AP. You know that they, all of those things you know. How did you monitor and assess? The last thing that I want us to focus in here is the two questions that you are asked to specifically cite evidence. Now, to timestamp or not to timestamp, that's a huge debate, and it's not a requirement. Your assessor is not going to go back. They're going to watch, they're going to read about your planning, and they maybe are going to look at your instructional your activities, and then they're going to come back and look at and read your commentary. So they're not going to go back and say, oh, she said at 3 minutes and 24 seconds, this happened. But I'm a proponent of that because it shows you've watched it. It shows that you knew exactly what happened at what time and what your students were doing or what you were doing. So citing those examples, you can decide on the timestamp, but I think it can be effective in showing those examples and providing that evidence. I knew that my students achieved my goal of, of being challenged, or my goal of productive struggle, when they called me over and asked this question. So whatever those lesson goals are, you've got to provide evidence in that video recording that you met them, and then or that you did not meet them, and to what extent they were met, and what your next steps were. So make sure you provide specific examples, specific evidence on those two questions. And you can do all that in 4 pages. That's a lot, guys. And remember, we're not worried about form. We're not worried about flow. We are just, those of you who are old enough, being Joe Friday, just the facts. Ma'am, you can look up that reference. Now, exceptional needs folks, you don't have that last question. Your question is changed to this. Instead of what would you do differently, it is replaced with what additional plans could you provide opportunities for your students in the future. So otherwise, I'm almost sure everybody else's questions for Comp 3 are almost exactly the same. All right, here are some, we talked about that idea of combining the descriptive and the analytic, because I knew, you can name a particular student. This group of students struggled, I provided. Because I knew my IEP students struggled with instructions, I printed theirs out and had them on their desk. Because I knew they struggled, I gave them manipulatives. I provided a sample problem at their desk for that particular group. I knew that my students sometimes had trouble knowing where to start, so I provided job cards for them. I arranged my in groups to address student strengths and needs. I assigned specific jobs too. you know who can get up out of their seat and who cannot. So you're going to assign the materials manager to the person that's not going to touch every other person on their way to get there. I address this topic because, and name the topic and tell why. All of those allow you to show evidence of both your knowledge of your content and your knowledge of your students. And these came from Bobby Faulkner's book. Based on my analysis of the assessment results, that's a reflection question. You didn't just decide to do it, you did it based on that. Here are some questions that are instructional decisions. Did you notice something was happening with a particular group and you move, oops, whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry. When I try to move my box over to read, I noticed this particular group was being unsuccessful. So at this timestamp, I did this. Or at this timestamp, I addressed Sally's misconception about something. I observed George's body language at this. So I asked him what he was thinking. I did this. I asked students to demonstrate. Based on my knowledge of moving from working knowledge to so that my students can remember it to long-term memory. I know they need to see it, speak it, write it, and hear it. So I had them give me a choral response at this point because I wanted them to say it out loud. I had them write this down in their guided notes because all of those things you are given rationale and you are there we go. And you are describing what you've done and why you've done it. And there are lots of these sentence stems in the Bobby Faulkner book that you can get from your, and I have a picture of it in a few minutes, from your in-service director. So I don't think we have time to actually go back into another breakout group, but imagine you're doing a elevator speech. You have 30 seconds in an elevator to tell the person that you're with in this elevator all the engaging things that your students are doing in the video. You've got to do it quick. You've got to prove it and support evidence cited from your video. So, it might even be a list. It does not have to be a paragraph. So, we have grandkid camp at my house, and one of the days we go to a water park, and Mama Susu gets nominated to go down the water slide because some of those kiddos aren't tall enough without a grown-up. I'm only willing to do it once or twice because you have to walk 4 flights of stairs. But guess what? All 3 of those children say the minute we are finished and get down to the bottom. Let's do it again. So guess what? Everything we just talked about, everything we just went through, deciding the lesson, all of those things are things that you get to do again for video 2, but with a different format and different strategies. And then the last thing here is your introduction to entry form. And I really, to be honest, I hate the name of this because it makes you feel like you need to do it at the beginning. But actually what it is just talking about each of the videos and a brief overview of your entire entry, what you did, your different formats, your different everything, and then a description of video 1 and a description of video 2 and your rationale for including it. I'm sure it's called introduction because that's the first thing your assessor is going to read before they watch a video, before they read your forms and all of that. They are going to read this first. So that's why it's called the introduction. But in terms of writing it, do this last. And once again, it's a form. You're just going to write in those boxes, single spaced. Any questions about videoing, written commentary, anything that we need to talk about before we move on?
I had a quick question about the video. When you have two different modes, I just finished EdTPA, so that's kind of where my brain is coming from.
Okay.
But do the students that you do for one video have to be in the video for the second video as
No,
well?
it can be two
Okay.
different classes. That format is what throws people off. They think that is small group if your desk are just in small groups, but it really needs to be doing different things or just a smaller group. All right, next steps and resources. Yay! Okay, let's think about the instructional materials. That was the word that was not coming to me. This is actually from a Facebook page for advanced and retakes, and this is a former assessor, and she scored C3 for over 10 years. And I love her. First of all, her advice: make sure you have rationale for every decision you make. And that's one of the things that we talk about in writing, especially for veteran teachers. You think, oh, well, everybody does this. Well, of course I did that. No, you do things that are intentional, and you want to give the rationale for every decision that you make. Now, you have 3 pages for instructional materials. The best entry I ever scored used a thorough 2-page lesson plan. I could visualize the lesson before I ever read the written commentary or viewed the video. It included differentiation in instruction and assessment. What a great idea. Now, I don't know if you want to use 2 pages of your instructional materials, but that was something that I had never thought of. That idea of that lesson plan allows your assessor to be able to know what they're looking for before they ever even watch the video. That is something that I would definitely include in my instructional materials. Here are some other examples of instructional materials. It could be, if they're doing an experiment, a picture of their results. It could be a chart where they're marking off things. A worksheet that they had during the lab, or there on the right, the team members. I would give ones that you put feedback on, so that it can see that you are giving not just a grade, but positive feedback on your instructional materials. Here are a couple more: an anchor chart, exit slip. It doesn't necessarily have to be something they completed during the video. It could be something they did the day before, and then you used it and you referenced it in your video. If they went outside and did a lab and then you're coming back inside to work on it, you could have pictures of that. A data table, anything that helps your assessor understand what was going on. If there's a particular, I love that idea of an anchor chart, even if it's from a previous lesson that you refer to in the video and maybe they can't see hanging in your room, have that there. Here's a grading rubric, a letter. One of the assessments for a lesson was a letter to their congressman, and it was an example of that letter that was part of the lesson for that particular class. All of those things can be included in your 3 pages of instructional materials. Now, what about resources? Here is one, And this is just a template that I put together years and years ago. And I put one into your folder, the resource folder. It is a timeline where you can take your instructions and use it to make a date for yourself. So before school starts, you are going to review those standards for Com3 before you do anything. You can give yourself a little check mark. Go ahead, once you get to know your students, October or so, you can fill out that contextual information sheet and give yourself a date. So one of the webinars that I listen, procrastination is one of your biggest enemies. So a timeline like this, you're going to set aside, every first Saturday or first Sunday afternoon or Monday nights are going to be my national board nights. Whatever works best in your schedule with your children and your family. You're going to make sure you've got the equipment. Identify what do I need to do. That is in your instructions, right? And it says, what do I need to do? Practice. Then after you've practiced and videoed, you're going to choose your lesson, write about the planning, record and prepare, identify and your instructional materials, and do a rough draft of your commentary.
We have a question about where they can find this document.
This document will be in the folder that I share with you at the end of the presentation. And also it is that little helmet there will send you straight to one. And all you have to do is just make a copy for yourself and use it. If you think it would be helpful to people in your cohort, you're welcome to use that as well. Another thing that I developed a few years ago is a T-chart. And a lot of folks have found that. So now the thing about the T-chart is it is unique to your particular certification area. But basically what it is a checklist. It's a list of the standards that are addressed, and it is the level 4 rubric. We're going to talk about the level 2 and 3 rubric in just a minute, but I put a sample in your folder. If you think, oh, Suzanne, this would be super helpful to me, email me. I probably already have it and I can share it with you because I've worked with enough folks and I've made enough of these. If I don't have one, my goal is to have one for everybody, for every component. So if I don't have one for you, I will make one for you and I will share it with you. So if you think it would be helpful, I'd be more than happy to do that. Just a quick email and I will share it with you. But it's just kind of a one-stop shop. Folks have used it and given it to people who were helping them and reading for them. They've used it for themselves to just do check marks or whatever, jots there on the right where you have that evidence that you have done what is said here. And you have talked about those things in your written commentary or somewhere in your portfolio. Another thing that in terms of resources and things that are helpful is that looking at your rubrics. What is it? Begin with the end in mind. Notice that graphic on the left. You want to be in that. Obviously, we all want to be a level 4 on everything. But the real key to certification or not yet accomplished is getting from 2 to 3. You want to push what your writing, your entry, everything that you do from a 2 up to a level 3. So the best way to do that is study those rubrics. Grab every certification area has the rubrics listed. Highlight the difference between the 2 and the 3. Analyze it. Ask yourself what it takes to get you from a 2 to a 3. Notice the 2 has limited. evidence. The 3 has clear evidence. If you look at that first statement, active student engagement or just student engagement? Is your engagement are you conversing purposefully, or are they just conversing? Are they attentive and based on trust, only sufficiently monitors, adequately monitors, constructive feedback, or just regular feedback? Are you giving them feedback that helps them move on to the next step? All of those things can help you, I think, push from a 2 to a 3. So I would suggest on your timeline adding this analysis of rubric. I probably need to put that on there. I'm not sure if it is. If it's not, I'm making myself a note to do that. Another thing that I have just learned in working with advanced candidates, I didn't even know it was there until I started doing a lot of studying. I didn't memorize the scoring guide before I started in 2004, but the scoring guide actually gives you feedback statements that you will get from your assessor. When you get your score, you get feedback statements. And in the scoring guide, they are on page 32 through 40. And here is a link to the scoring guide, and I put it in your folder. What do you notice the feedback is correlated with? Somebody put it in the chat for me so I can brag on you. Oh, wait, 6 new. The 5 core propositions, yes. Now, there's only 4 here because Comp 3 does not evaluate your collaborative, you're working with families and other teachers. So it's not there. So there are your 5 core propositions that we talked about at the very beginning. We said the standards came from those. Your feedback is correlated to those. So take a minute to look at them. You may wish to provide clearer evidence that you understand child development and you have insight to student differences and learning motivations. Oh, I know that, but I didn't talk about it. I did not give evidence of it. I did not say in my beginning of the year form, I asked them these questions, and 90% of my students said math was their least favorite subject. So that's why I chose finding the joy in math as one of my goals. So all of those things, those are all there, and they have level 1, level 2, and level 3. They're very similar, but so that's why I chose to show you level 1. Atlas, because you are attending this session, you will get an email that gives you access to Atlas. And Atlas, if you're not familiar with it, is just National Board has put together over 1,400 video cases that represent national boards and the written reflection. And I want to show you that in just a minute. And these have been assessed as accomplished practices. So you can look at the writing, you can look at the video. Guys, you know what this Atlas did for me? It helped me see my video didn't have to be perfect. If you watch one of these videos in your area, you will see kids making faces. You will hear announcements coming on the loudspeaker. You will hear someone knock on a door and interrupt a class. That's what gives you more to write about. So I've got a couple. What I've done here is I've just put 4 or 5 slides. This big white arrow in the middle goes to it, and you can go and watch them. Here is a early middle child literacy. I will just, I think we've got time to just go to it and look. We see that this is grade 3, and here is the commentary. It doesn't look quite, it was the first or one of the earlier iterations, so it looks a little bit different, but here's your instructional context. Here's your planning. You can read what has been assessed as accomplished. And then here's the analysis section. It used to be broken down into these sections. And then here is your reflection. So you can read these, you can look at these. You have you can just go to the home and you can choose your grade level. You can choose your subject. You can narrow it down as if you wanted to choose, world languages and French pronunciation. And you could do that, or if you wanted to show 11th grade or kindergarten, there's no French, I'm sure there's French in kindergarten, but if you just wanted to go straight, if you were a generalist, wait, let me uncheck French, world languages. Where can I clear it? Let's just refresh maybe. I can come down and go straight to grade levels. I promise you can go straight to grade levels. Somehow I have my filter for high school. I'm sorry. No, here we go. Here we go. If you are a kindergarten teacher and you are doing early childhood, you may just want to look at these. There are 81 different lessons for kindergarten. Or if you, then you can go find your topic. There are 13 in mathematics. There are 37 in English and literacy. And then look at all of these different phonetics and word recognition. So all of these different lessons, and every single lesson has a 15-minute video and has the commentary. So Atlas can be an amazing tool for you. What do you notice about the math lesson? This teacher is an accomplished teacher. They chose as an exemplar, and she didn't do landscape. She did portrait. And so you are not, this is just my example of you are not being judged on the quality of your video. Here's an EA Science. So I just threw a few, AYA, adult, young adolescent science lesson. So, but you can go into Atlas and find your own. Now these are a couple of resources I also wanted to share with you. Here's the QR code that allows you to get the contact information for your in-service center and your in-service director. They will, guys, that to me, that is your best resource. We do virtual, we do face-to-face, deep dives into the comps. You can find people in your in-service region in the same certification area as you and form cohorts. All kinds of great resources from your in-service center, writing retreats, all of those different things. Here's the picture of the book from Bobby Faulkner. That is the in-service center. They may even have some, I know they're going to have some here for the face-to-face. The National Board website has what they call homeroom, and you can work through each of these sessions. Each session has different steps. This second session looks at all 4 of the components and gives you a one-stop shop to everything. Here's a planning guide, webinars, all the different things that you would need for all of the different components. And then it gives you moments of joy at the end of each one, but that can be very helpful to you. This is the Facebook group. You do have to be accepted into it, but most everybody I know I don't know anybody that's never been accepted to it. They will ask specific art questions. You can search it for questions you might have. This is a link to the Office of Student Learning, a boot camp. If you want to go back and hear what other people say about Comp 3 or writing or technical, here's boot camps all the way back to 2021. So that site is there. The next thing. All right, questions. And if you'd rather not type, if it'd be easier to unmute and ask, I'm totally fine with that as well. We've kind of taken them all along. Hopefully we have met our mission goals. I don't know, probably I should have let y'all giving me a star instead of me giving myself a star, but I think we have covered, and very quickly, covered all the, met all of our goals for the session. Don't forget to complete the attendance form. If this is your first virtual of the day, there is a QR code to the attendance form. I think somebody may have already put it in the chat. And here is the link to it. I feel like I talked way too much, but there's just so much information to get across. Hopefully you were able to gain some things. Here is your link there. If you would prefer a tiny URL, there it is, or there's the QR code that takes you to all of the resources that we mentioned and talked about during the session. Wow. I usually go right up until 2:49. So check that out. If there's anything I promised that's not there, I made myself a note to add the statements. And the rubric. So I will do that, and you have view rights to that. Y'all are so welcome, and please do take advantage. I can't stress how important mentoring. I can't off the top of my head think of the percentage, but it is unbelievable the difference between the people who get with a cohort, work with a mentor, the difference in those folks that achieve based on those who do not achieve. So, oh, thank you. Angie gave us the one-stop shop to the Google Drive link. It should be view only, so download anything, share anything. If you think this presentation would be helpful to anybody, I'm giving you permission to use any of these slides. You are totally welcome to it. My goal is to share and be as helpful as possible to anyone who is going through this journey. You are not alone. Did I forget anything, Dr. Coleman?
I believe that is all of it.
I guess you could actually listen to it back more slowly. I don't know.
I believe you can slow down recording, so there we go.
I apologize for talking fast.
I believe it was fine. Rather you finish a little bit early than leave them with some things you didn't cover.
I said start on time, finish early. We did not take a break, but
I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.
okay.